Hello and welcome to this very special live breaking news broadcast. And this news isn't even breaking, but finally all the pieces have started to come together. And basically, let me say this. If we don't stop what is already in place, there will be no more internet. There will be an internet, but it'll be half of what it used to be. It'll be filled with mainstream media talking points for you to talk to your friends about, your neighbors about, but it's not going to be truth. It's not going to be truth-based. It's going to be whatever the narrative is of the day. They want you to like the color blue. There'll be stories about the color blue. They want you to hate the color red. There'll be stories about hating the color red. It's all going to be about controlling you. And this goes back to the 2017 NDAA that was passed and signed as a bill into Congress, passed Congress in December 13th, 2016. And this has been something, this is a 1,500-page bill if you try to read it. There are 5 versions of it. So it's 88 days in right now. We're 88 days into the 2017 NDAA. And remember, the NDAA, the different variations of it, is where they're always sliding stuff in to try and circumvent your liberties. And this one's down in section 1287, the Global Engagement Center. And I'm going to get into what the Global Engagement Center means. Because basically what I'm going to outline in the next hour or so, I'm going to read through a lot of this. But this should really make you think. You have to think about all the instances you've seen on television, read on the internet, the memes, that anybody who disagrees with the narrative that the Russians hacked the election must be working for Russia. And so we've been seeing that narrative ramped up since the election, since Hillary Clinton lost, because the American people were sick of her crap and being sick of force-fed these hand-picked candidates who have nothing but special interests in mind. They don't have your interest in mind. They could care less about you. And so we're going to play a few videos. I'm going to read this bill, cover some articles, because this is all coming down the last 3 or 4 days. I'm going to go back first to March 15th, 2017, just 6 days ago. Matthew Armstrong is at a Senate Armed Services Committee meeting, and they bring these guys in, and they talk about, hey, we're going to ask you this question. I want you to say this. We have to tie InfoWars into Russia. Get all this stuff ready. I want you to say this in your best simpering voice, your weakest voice, so we can pretend like, oh, we're weak and these people are strong. And Alex covered this today on the show, how they tie us into RT and Sputnik and Rupley, who's basically kind of a Getty Images for alternative media, where they're out shooting video. But he throws all them in, and then InfoWars, we're an echo chamber. We echo the talking points of Putin. So I'm going to show you basically all this evidence, and then we're going to get into the bill. The National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2017, and how this all is the plan that Obama put into motion to basically censor the internet. And it's not going to be censoring the internet with, oh, we don't like pornography or we don't like foul language. No, it's about, hey, we're going to decide what's fake news and what isn't, and we're going to decide who are working with the Russians and who aren't. And those who are working with the Russians, well, we have to censor them. We can't have Russian propaganda running rampant. And and this is from the country that invented propaganda. Edward Bernays, the father of modern day propaganda. Our country spends billions upon billions of dollars across the globe and here at home to keep you dumbed down. And I've got a multitude of articles, but let's go to this video first. It's 30 seconds long. This is Matthew Armstrong telling the Senate Armed Services Committee that InfoWars is a Russian echo chamber.
Mr. Armstrong, you'd mentioned in your answer to, I think, Ms. Spears' question, that there are other RTs operating in the U.S.? Can you describe them, list them?
Sure, thank you. So you have RT, you have Sputnik, you have Rupley, and then I think you have them feeding other entities. InfoWars comes to mind, where those are echo chambers for those modalities.
Those modalities, echo chambers. Yeah. And now let's go yesterday to the Comey hearings that were going on, which is basically a dog and pony show, just to say and imprint out there and create those news bites that then CNN and MSNBC, even Fox News, could all grab and say, oh, the big thing is the Russian hacking. We're all worried about this Russian hacking that occurred. Not looking at Facebook, who said they were openly for Hillary Clinton, or Google, who said they were openly for Hillary Clinton, openly. They said they were going to support Hillary Clinton. What do you got right there? Yeah, intelligence hearing reveals no Trump-Russia connections. But that doesn't matter. We have the little sound bites that we play over and over again, like this one from Congressman Speer, who's telling James Comey that the Russian hack is an act of war. Here's that clip.
So would you say that Russia engaged in hybrid warfare in its effort to undermine our democratic process and engage in our electoral process? Director Comey?
They engaged in a multifaceted campaign of active measures to undermine our democracy and hurt one of the candidates and hope to help one of the other candidates.
I actually think that their engagement was an act of war.
Oh, act of war. Guys, look up. Facebook, Google openly announced they're going to promote Hillary Clinton. I'm sure you can find it. That's the article from yesterday. Paul Joseph Watson. Dem Congresswoman, Russia committed act of war against the U.S. The tarantula metaphor. And these people are going to keep pushing this narrative. You know, I thought Alex was not being a sore winner, but the night of the election, Alex had this look on his face. He's like, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep attacking. I'm like, Alex, man, we just won probably the biggest upset since Dewey defeats Truman. When Harry S. Truman beat Dewey and he's holding up the paper. Easily the biggest upset. When you look at the polls, you look at the media. And he wasn't sitting there going, having a good time. He did a couple little photos with the champagne, but he knew this was just the beginning. This wasn't the end of the war. That was a small battle in the war that we won. And now it's getting serious because they are going, and we've seen it already happening. They're going to turn off your access to InfoWars. They're going to turn off your access to Breitbart. They're going to turn off your access to anyone out there that doesn't agree with the narrative that Russians hacked the election and Russia is running Trump. In fact, let's go to the clip with Maxine Waters saying the Trump campaign, basically everything they get, all their talking points come from Russia. Anything they thought of didn't come from anybody else, but straight from the Russian government. Here she is.
Well, here's what I'm trying to get to. If we discover that Donald Trump or his advocates played a role in helping to devise strategy, if they're the ones who came up with crooked Hillary, if they're the ones who came up with she's ill, something's wrong with her energy, and the way that he basically, described her in the campaign, I think that is something that would put the question squarely on the table whether or not he should be impeached.
So you think you can have an impeachable offense before you take office?
There you go. And that is ramping up. Now we're having senators being called out on the Senate floor as being Russian agents. And this is John McCain, who went through this whole hubbubaloo to basically try to put Montenegro into under NATO protection, have them join the NATO family so we could go protect them when any type of disagreement happens. And he went through this whole long act of talking about this and says, if anyone disagrees with me, they're a Russian agent. And then Rand Paul says, I object to what you're doing, because no one was there. It's a completely empty Senate chamber. There's probably 3 or 4 people in that room when John McCain is speaking. But he did that as a little photo op stunt to call somebody a Russian agent. And I'm going to get into how they're going to take all this propaganda they're creating, try to turn it into truth, force feed it down your throat, and by law, they will then go, and this law, it's financed. There's money already pouring into these groups right now, these government entities that are going to turn off the internet, the free internet. And the law's already passed. The only way we can stop it now is to have Trump overturn sections in the NDAA 2017, the National Defense Authorization Act. So let's go to McCain calling Rand Paul a Russian agent.
If there is objection, and I note the senator from Kentucky on the floor, I will say before I read this, if there is objection, you are achieving the objectives of Vladimir Putin. You're achieving the objectives of trying to dismember this small country that has already been the subject of attempted coup. If they object, they are now carrying out the desires and ambitions of Vladimir Putin, and I do not say that lightly.
Senator from Kentucky.
I object.
Objection is heard.
The senator from Kentucky is now working for Vladimir Putin.
That's it, just like that. Don't agree with putting a force feeding without debate, putting a country into Montenegro, well, you're a Russian agent. And my final little video is Tucker Carlson. And there's Congressman Schiff, who was leading the Comey inquiry yesterday, basically just force feeding all the talking points, throwing them out there, not basing anything on truth, not basing anything on reality, but just going with the lie that the Russians hacked the election. And that that's the only way WikiLeaks could have gotten these emails, is that the Russians did it. Not because you had your password as password, John Podesta. That has nothing to do with it. It only could be the all-powerful Russians, whose economy is the size of Italy. They're beating us right now. Let's go to it now. Tucker Carlson's a Russian agent.
You're not, you know what, you're dodging.
And Tucker,
so look and say, I know they did. John Podesta's emails, they hacked
and
those.
I think that Ronald Reagan will be rolling over
Ronald
his
Reagan,
grave
fine. Ronald Reagan,
at your carrying water for the Kremlin.
I'm not carrying water for the... You're a sitting member of Congress on the Intel Committee, and you can't say they hacked...
You're gonna have to move your show to RT Russian television, because
you know what?
That's
just so beneath your office, because it's so dumb and you're being duplicitous. I'm asking you, did they hack Podesta's emails? And you can't say it.
Personal insults like that, Tucker.
You just said I was carrying... You said I was carrying water for Putin.
It doesn't matter. If you don't agree with the Democrat narrative that the Russians hacked everything, you're a freaking Russian agent. There's nothing you can do about it. And so the calls have gone out. And now that they've said it over and over again, well, now 2 anonymous sources have told McClatchy there's an FBI investigation. Here's the McClatchy article. Came out yesterday. This is all happening right now. All right? They have to lay the case. They have to kill us in the media. And then by law, which I'm holding right here, and I'm going to read through the whole thing. Don't worry. We got plenty of time. We're live right now on Facebook and on YouTube. I'm going to talk about the Global Engagement Center, because that is what is going to take your internet. That's interesting. I have a different FBI's Russian influence probe includes look at Breitbart, InfoWars news sites. The one I'm holding says Breitbart, InfoWars under investigation for ties to Russia. Report. Interesting. Federal investigators are examining whether far-right news sites played a role in a Russian cyber operation and dramatically widened the reach of news stories, some fictional, that favored Donald Trump's presidential bid. 2 people familiar with the inquiry say. 2 people. We don't know who they are. 2 people. It's funny. Judge Napolitano had several insiders come up to him and talk about how that the British version of the NSA was used by Obama to spy on Trump. And now he's fired because we can't let that cat out of the bag. Washington, here we are. Federal investigators are examining whether far-right news sites played a role last year in a Russian cyber operation that dramatically widened the reach of news stories, some fictional, that favored Donald Trump's presidential bid. Operatives for Russia appear to have strategically timed the computer commands known as bots to blitz social media with links to pro-Trump stories at times when the billionaire businessman was on the defensive in his race against Democrat Hillary Clinton. And we have footage of one of these bot facilities. Yes. That they want you to believe are run by Alex Jones and Vladimir Putin. We're going to show you those because it's coming at you from all forms. The politicians, the media, the entertainment arm of the media. The bots' end products were largely millions of Twitter and Facebook posts carrying links to stories on conservative internet sites such as Breitbart News and InfoWars, as well as the Kremlin-backed RT and Sputnik News. Some of these stories are false or mixed fact and fiction. The sources who spoke on the condition of anonymity because the bot attacks are part of an FBI-led investigation. I tell you what, boy, Comey can't do anything about these leaks. He was lamenting about that yesterday. He would go into a meeting with Trump talking about something, and then somebody would leak it 2 hours later, and he doesn't know how that's getting out. Poor Comey. Can't keep control of his operatives. Investigators examining the bot attacks are exploring whether the far-right news operations took any actions to assist Russian operatives. Their participation, however, wasn't necessary for the bots to amplify